The Dorothy and Charles Mosesian Center for the Arts acknowledges the history of this sacred land where we work, teach, learn, make and enjoy art, and build our community. This land is the territory of the Massachusetts people, whose name was taken by this Commonwealth, and of their neighbors, the Wampanoag, Nipmuc, and Pawtucket peoples, who inhabited and cultivated this land and nearby waters for hundreds of generations before us.
With a new arsenal needed for the country's young military, the United States Army purchased 40 acres of land on the northern banks of the Charles River in 1816. An existing arsenal in Charlestown was being repurposed as a naval repair yard, and Captain George Talcott, commander of the Charlestown Arsenal, had been tasked with finding a new site. Watertown, Talcott argued to his superiors, offered several desirable features. The site was close to Boston and building materials. It was easily accessible by water and land, and, due to its inland location on a rise overlooking the river, it was sufficiently secure from attack. The first arsenal buildings were designed in a simple federal style with clean lines, flat brick walls, and arched windows. The factories, shops, and housing were laid out in a quadrangle surrounding a central parade ground. The architecture was the work of Alexander Paris, who 10 years later would design Quincy Market. Over the following decades, the Watertown Arsenal grew from military storage to a manufacturing facility. By 1855, the Army had purchased 13 additional acres, added an entrance on the north side of the grounds, Arsenal Street, and built new storehouses and a weapons testing laboratory. During the Civil War, new machine and smith shops helped to meet wartime demands. In 1867, the Army purchased an additional 40 acres of land for the arsenal. The same year, on the current site of Building 312, a bronze foundry was constructed. In the 1890s, the Watertown Arsenal transformed into a major manufacturing and research center. New and larger gun carriages required more expansive spaces. To meet the need, a new erecting shop, Building 312, was constructed. Built in 1894 at a cost of $35,000 and recalling the earlier federal architecture, Building 312 was a tall, single-story structure with a large open floor plan. Floor-to-ceiling arch windows helped to light the interior for intricate assembly work. Arched openings connected the building by railway tracks to adjacent shops. At one end of the building, gun carriages were assembled as they came from metalworking shops. At the opposite end, cranes lifted and moved heavy carriage parts. The demands of World War I again increased production. Building 312 gained an extension on its west side, the current location of administrative offices and studio spaces. A new shop, constructed in 1917, would give Building 312 the name the Old Erecting Shop. Beginning in the 1920s, the Arsenal expanded its research and laboratory work, at times collaborating with private industrial and university laboratories. Materials tested included iron, steel, brass, and bronze. New fabrics, electric insulators, pipe wrenches, bicycle spokes, and roller skates were a few items submitted for testing. By the end of the decade, the Arsenal was a specialized facility for research and development in metallurgy. Manufacturing continued as well, and World War II pushed the Arsenal to the height of production. During the war, the Army again added to existing structures, including Building 312. An additional 7 acres were purchased for new structures. Following the war, work at the Arsenal shifted further away from manufacturing and toward more research. Beginning in 1961, large machine tools in Building 312 were replaced with laboratory space, and a second floor was constructed for administrative offices. In the building, new techniques were developed for growing synthetic sapphire crystals. Metals were tested for strength and tolerance, and a gas-powered ballistics range measured the damage caused by various projectile weapons. In 1964, the Army began to phase out production activities at the Watertown Arsenal. A research center remained on the property, but 55 acres of the arsenal, including the location of the original buildings and parade grounds, were sold to the town of Watertown. The 1960s and 70s witnessed the first major structural changes to existing arsenal buildings. Original wooden windows and doors were replaced with newer materials. Some openings were permanently blocked with brick or cement. 3 structures were demolished entirely. In 1985, the National Park Service recommended that 4 structures, built between 1851 and 1894, be placed on the National Register of Historic Places. Building 312 was among them. The Army closed all facilities at the arsenal in 1995. Despite significant changes to their interiors, windows, and doors, 4 19th-century buildings represented a rich architectural past and a significant manufacturing history that saw the United States through a Civil War and 2 World Wars. In 1999, the Watertown Arsenal was designated a National Historic District. The old erecting shop, Building 312, had played an important role in the district's industrial history, and, in its resemblance to the first structures on the property, pays tribute to the original arsenal architecture. Some arsenal buildings remained unoccupied at the end of the 20th century, but plans were already hatching for new and creative uses.